This is the Your Money Hour podcast. I am your host, Dakota, sponsored by Upstate Essential Solutions. Check out the website at dakotagrady.com for help with personal finances, also with accounting and taxes. Upstate Essential Solutions. Hey, y'all, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here, no matter where you are around the world, California, Ireland, Africa, no matter where you are. Thank you for joining us today. My guest is Ms. Jasmine Johnson of she's actually an emotional wellness coach in California. So I want to have her on the show today, talk about her experience as a coach and also share some of her stories. So Jasmine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dakota.
You're welcome. So tell everyone about who you are and what you do, Jasmine.
Okay, I am Jasmine M. Johnson, and I am an associate marriage and family therapist and emotional wellness coach. As a therapist, I work with children's, teens, young adults, families, all of that, with just helping them navigate everyday life things and even trauma and things that they haven't worked through over the course of their life, and just helping them to improve their overall functioning and even just their mental and emotional wellness. And then as an emotional wellness coach, I used to primarily focus on serving women who experience the loss of a parent, but I have now pivoted a bit, and now I'm now helping entrepreneurs to enhance their mental and emotional wellness.
Wow. So how did you get into this space?
Which one?
Well, with the being a therapist, like did you go to school for that and how
Mhm.
long were you in the industry before you started your own business?
Okay. So, what led me to the mental health field? Yes, I did have to go to school for it, but I decided to become a therapist. One, God sent me down that path. But then also, after my own personal experience with therapy, after my mom passed away in 2016. So, prior to my mom passing away, and just like over the course of my life, I was someone who didn't handle emotional stuff very well. I was emotional for a while. However, I often didn't feel as though I had a safe space to openly express how I felt and what I was struggling with. And I was often shut down. And that caused
Mm.
me to internalize a lot of my feelings. And even as a child, I didn't realize it at the time, but I struggled with anxiety from childhood until adulthood. And that's still something that I, cope with and navigate now. But it was so bad when I was a kid that my grandma actually ended up having to take me to the doctor, and they had put me on medication, and they didn't name it anxiety, but me being older and now being a therapist, I was able to recognize like that's what it was. And just thinking about how my experience led me to even have to take medication at like the age of 8 to try to
Mm.
control that, and just realizing that all of that stuff that I was internalizing was causing physical symptoms within my body and causing me to feel as though like I didn't want to go to school, I didn't want to talk about things, and it was a lot. So me losing my mom forced me to kind of face my emotions and the things that I've been struggling with head on, and helped me to realize that I no longer want to function this way. Like I need to learn some healthier coping skills to be able to process, not just the grief, but even just things that were coming up in life in general. And generational things, that I hadn't had a chance to process, and that my family hadn't had a chance to process, but I was able to start to openly unpack that stuff in therapy. And the transformation that I experienced and the positive results that I experienced in therapy led me to want to support other people in that same capacity.
Mm. So before we ended the IG Live, which we got recently, talk about the trauma of finances. Talk
Mhm.
about that because in America, 78% of people struggle financially. That's a lot of people, right? So
Mhm.
how does finances, I guess, contribute to stress, anxiety, worry, being on medication? How does it contribute to that?
Mhm. Um, I think it really stems from kind of like us just not having been taught how to manage, our finances and stuff. And a lot of that stuff comes from our parents, our grandparents, and just seeing how they handled everything, where a lot of them, many of us came from humble beginnings, where our parents didn't have a lot, they were doing their best to make ends meet. Some of them may have come from single parent households where the mom or the grandma was kind of like the caregiver within the home, and a stay at home mom or wife caring for the kids, and they had to rely on one income. And, they may not have had a budget, or they budgeted the best way that they could. But then, our parents may have inherited those same poor habits, or, some of us may have come from single family households and our parents just doing the best that they could. And they may not have had access to go to college or different things like that, which limited their earning potential, in the world. So a lot of this stuff are like things that we grew up seeing and then began to kind of incorporate into our own lives. And then when you add, relationships with other people, when you get into a romantic relationship or a marriage, you guys grew up two different ways. So, how you guys were raised to handle finances may have been very different. One person may budget, the other one may not. One person may be a great saver and the other person may be a spender, and they spend everything that they earn. So a lot of times people are not having these conversations before they get married. And then you are thrown into that situation, or you're trying to figure it out, and it's causing a lot of stress and tension within the household. And that's even one of, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like it's one of the number one reasons that people get divorced, because of that financial strain. And even, I see clients sometimes that come in and they're like, we are not on the same page with this, or I'm forced to handle all the finances because my partner is like poor at, managing their money, and they're spending everything. So I had to, by default, take control of this, but it's causing me stress and anxiety, and I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have no other options. So I very much commend you for the work that you do with helping people, especially, look, even before they get married, hopefully helping the singles so that when they do get married, and even couples, helping them to enhance, these financial, literacy and management skills, so that it is starting to reduce a lot of that tension and stress within the marriages, and they're not having to, get depressed because things are being depleted and they don't know how they're going to get a handle on things, or starting to feel like anxious every time the bills are due each month because they feel like I don't have enough and we haven't managed things well.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for that. And yeah, you're right about money is one reason why people do get divorced. So you're right about that. Talk about how did you deal with two things. First, losing your mom, one, and
Mm-hmm.
secondly, overcoming cancer. Talk about those things, please.
Mm-hmm. So I, by far, like, actually both of those situations, I give credit to God. God literally had to be my anchor in both of those situations, because it was just no way that I could have gotten through either one of those. And cancer, up until that point, was the worst thing that had happened to me in my life, I would say, because I was really young when I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed with stage 2 colon cancer when I was 24, about to be 25, and the doctors couldn't explain how it happened, or anything. They just didn't know. They didn't have a lot of data. I had never been sick. I had never been hospitalized. I had never like broken anything. So it was just completely unexpected. But until then, that was like the worst thing that had happened. And that's actually what caused me to be saved, because I really like pressed into God like during that time, and started to ask him, like, if you spare my life, I know that I'm here for a reason. And show me what my purpose is after that. And I've, dedicated my life to serving others, to pointing others to him and helping others to heal. Especially with me having that greater awareness of his healing in the physical form. But being able to lean on that experience and seeing how, like, literally going through cancer, it was literally just me and God. Because it's like, if he doesn't heal me, like, he's the only one who can do this. True enough, he works through doctors and, medical professionals to administer that healing. But if he decides that this isn't the direction that we're going to go in, there's no amount of money that I can pay to get my health back. So even just knowing that from going through that, I was able to tap into that like same like trust and reliance on him when my mom passed away, because it was literally me and him in that situation. I was my mom's only child. I was completely devastated, and I knew like there's no one else in the world who understands what this feels like with me losing her, because she doesn't have any other kids. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm. Mm.
everything is on me to handle her affairs, to plan her funeral, to do all of this stuff. And like, what does life even look like outside of her, and without her in my life? And really struggling initially, knowing that there's so many memory or moments that I'm going to experience in my life that she's not going to be here for. And it just felt so premature. But I felt like God really took me step by step with navigating that, and just being very intentional about working through my healing. And I remember asking him like years later, because I would see so many people who would be, like decades out. since their parents passed, and they were struggling so much, and it was like it almost felt like it had just happened because it was like they were stuck in place and they were stagnant. And I remember asking God over time, like, well, what's the difference? Because there was a time in the beginning where I didn't think that I would ever be happy again because it felt like I was like just floating through life, and I just, it was like the sun stopped shining, in a sense. And then later, like, to see me now, to have like joy, to be able to enjoy life, to walk in my purpose, and to be able to support people and help other people to heal. I was like, well, God, what's the difference? Like, why am I able to experience this? And why am I able to continue life knowing that I carry her with me in all that I do and other people are struggling so much? And he said, you were intentional about working through your healing, and you embraced it. You were open to it. And a lot of them, they're like holding themselves emotionally hostage and holding on to that pain, and they don't want to let it go. One, sometimes out of fear that, well, if I move forward, that means that they didn't mean as much to me as they did, or that
Mm,
I'm leaving them in the past and they're afraid of that. So it's like, well, I'm going to stay in this place because in this place is where I feel like their memory is. And that
mm.
it's really negatively impacting a lot of people. And, and it impacts everyone that's close to you too, because it's not just you, that's grieving and struggling. It's those connected to you too. It impacts them as well.
Do you think it affects if someone's an entrepreneur? How does it affect their business if they're holding on to this grief in the past? How do they move forward?
They have to start. My thing that I say is, like, you have to be emotionally honest. You can't heal from what you fail to acknowledge. So you have to be honest about this thing, this hurt that you're experiencing, and know that it impacts your entire being. It doesn't just impact your personal life, it impacts how you show up in the world. It impacts how you show up at work. It impacts how you show up with your clients. You may be shorter with clients. You may not be as present with clients, because you have all of this stuff that's weighing you down and you can't be fully present. So it's important for them to be able to, embrace support and reach out, and express the help that they need, knowing that the help is available, but you just have to be open to receiving it.
Mm. So, how have you been living your life since you have been healed by from cancer? Because that would be a wake up call for me too. I mean, thank God I haven't been through what you've gone through, but just be now, like I need to go harder. I need to go harder for my dream because people are dying. I mean, some
Mm-hmm.
people may be dying because they are overwhelmed and stressed out by finances. They and
Right.
commit suicide.
Right.
How have you been on fire for me just like since that happened? Because in my opinion, like that will change my life totally. It has just knowing your story. So
Mm-hmm.
talk about that.
It's crazy. It's almost like, you know how they be like BC before, BC and AD before Christ and after death. Like, that's what I feel like my experience was like. Like, the people, if you knew me before I had cancer and you know me now, it's like two totally different versions of me. I think that a lot of that emotional stuff that I carried around made me kind of like more like stern and firm and kind of like mean. In a sense, where there was so much that I was like carrying around, and it was almost like the switch flipped off, and I was like so much nicer and sweeter after that, because I felt like, in the grand scheme of things, like, I think that we allow so much of what happens in life to like negatively impact us. And, we're moody, we're miserable, we're depressed, we're all of these things. We're lashing out at the people closest to us or whatever, because we have all of this stuff that we haven't processed, we haven't dealt with, that we're carrying, with us for decades in a lot of cases. But I was like, a lot of this stuff really isn't that serious, where like I could have died. I was 24, you know what I mean? And I knew, like, then, and I remember, like, I was literally sitting, and I still live in the house that I lived in, like, back then. And this year, I think it'll be 14 years that I've been cancer free. But I was sitting on my stairs, like, crying, like, literally pouring my heart out to God, and was like, but I thanked Him, where I said that if this is it, I thank you for the life that I've lived so far, because though I've gone through a lot of stuff or whatever, I didn't have a terrible life up to that point. I know a lot of people who had a lot of childhood trauma that they went through, and that wasn't my case. I felt like in a lot of cases I was very protected by my family. But I'm like, if this, is it, I thank you for the life that I lived up until this point, but it feels very incomplete. I don't think that I've achieved what you placed me in this earth to achieve. And if that's the case, and I survived this surgery, that I need you to show me what I'm here for. I need you to show me what my purpose is. And I promise that I will devote my life to that and I will tell everybody what you did for me. And I have honored that. I have carried that with me in everything I do, with even like me sharing my story about this and just helping to bring like more awareness to it, because now it's becoming more prevalent. Like even like that's what Chadwick Boseman died from. And a lot of like other celebrities, like, and it's like starting to become more prominent, especially in people of color. So we have to be more mindful of our health. That taught me to be more mindful of my body and paying attention to how my body feels on a regular basis. You know, a lot of times these doctors will try to say, oh, well, nothing's wrong. But it's like, no, something is wrong. You haven't identified what it is, but something is wrong. You know, and it's okay to get a second and a third opinion if needed, but being able to take charge of your health and your overall well being, knowing that you are the expert of you and you can advocate for yourself. And that's what that taught me too. Like, don't accept everything that the doctors say and think that, oh, they're the expert. No, they're not. They're not the expert of me. They can only speak from their medical opinion, but I'm going to advocate for myself to get the type of care and support that I need.
Awesome. So, wrapping up, you got anything else you want to? Because I mean, that's powerful right there. Just to take responsibility for your health, your life, and if you got a gift, a talent, a skill, go hard at it. I mean, just live for Christ. I mean, from what I'm hearing from you, if you don't know Christ, then hey,
Mm-hmm.
I hope you do. I'm a follower of Christ. I ain't perfect. I know I'm a messy person. I'm a man. I live in a fallen world, and he's my anchor. So if you don't know Christ, I hope you get to know him. Because hey, it's worth it. So Jasmine, thank you for your time. We're about to wrap up because I want to honor your time. What can you leave the audience with that you haven't already left us with? You know what I'm saying? Like, what can you give
Mm-hmm.
us to close out? Thank you for your time.
And thank you. I would say just give yourself permission to heal. There are so many things that we're struggling with, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, and we've allowed ourselves to remain hostage, you know, for years, often decades, to all of this stuff. And it's like really weighing us down. And you can never operate to your fullest potential if you're carrying all of this baggage, like bag ladies and bag men. So just give yourself permission to heal. A lot of times that we think that other people are the ones that's holding up the healing that we desire, but it's often ourselves because we don't want to release the weights of all of this stuff that we've been carrying around for so long. So give yourself the gift of healing, because everyone connected to you deserves to experience the healed version of you. That means your family, your children, your parents, your clients, your customers, your coworkers, all of these people deserve to experience the healed version of you. And then even as we heal, we unlock deeper levels of healing for everybody else connected to us. And I think that it's important, like we become their possibility models and we show them what's possible for them. So it creates this ripple effect of healing in the earth. So give yourself permission to heal.
All right. Thank you for your time, Jasmine. So how can people find out about you on social media, website, and anything else?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Jasmine, JASMINE underscore M, the letter M as in Mary, underscore Johnson, my last name. And then if you click the link in my bio, if you are an entrepreneur, and I know Dakota works with a lot of entrepreneurs who is interested in becoming more intentional about your mental and emotional health, I have a free gift at the top of my link on Instagram. So go ahead and grab that and get your free ebook to teach you how to take the first steps to start to become more intentional about your mental and emotional health.
Hey, I want to invite y'all to get your free gift from Jasmine. If you need help with your emotional stability, check her out y'all on Instagram. Thank you for your time, Jasmine.
Thank you, Dakota.
And this is the Your Money Hour podcast, sponsored by Upstate Essential Solutions.